To other news, there's been a series of comments in the last few days by the head of the Special Investigating Unit, Yvonne Mothibi, in which he has said that billions of rand are being stolen from government more quickly than the money can be recovered. In other words, money's being stolen so quickly, it won't all be recovered by government. Meanwhile, the Institute for Risk Management South Africa says 1/3 of their members have received some kind of threat or intimidation when trying to reduce risk. Yvonne Mothibi is the CEO of the Institute for Risk Management South Africa. Yvonne, good afternoon to you and thanks for your time. When your members try to reduce or mitigate the level of risk, they try and make sure that money can't be stolen, basically. What happens? What kind of response do they get?
Well, Jeremy, thanks for having me and good afternoon to your viewers. It's not easy to be a risk manager given the context that the country has been traversing currently. We all know that anything that has to do with risk as a concept to start with is seen as a negative drive. So our risk managers, by nature, they are out there to be curious about what are the shortcomings in the systems, what are those weaknesses that can get an organization or the state to fail. And their duty then is to unpack that, unearth that in getting those to be addressed. And it is in doing so that they get a bit of reluctance here and there, particularly as they are confronting failure, as they are going out there to close some of the serious gaps, significant gaps that we've seen in the government system. An example would be your procurement systems, your supply chain systems. So that is really in the nature of the work they do that they have been threatened, because we know by now that many of the syndicates and perpetrators of corruption have been thriving in chaos. So anything that is out there to be an obstacle to chaos is not received kindly. And that is what my members and risk managers in general have to deal with.
It's an interesting comment you make about chaos. I mean, do people benefit from chaos? Is causing chaos in any institution or organization deliberate?
Well, Jeremy, we've had to deal with the risk of fraud and corruption, and in unearthing that to get to understand, but why do people end up committing fraud? Why do people end up being infiltrated in having to conduct transactions that are corrupt? You get to really understand that it is in the behavior of people who are self-centered, people who are not ethical. So it is somehow, entrenched in the behavior of people, the character of people, and the shortcomings in leadership qualities. So is it by intent? Yes. What we see is this would be a concerted effort that goes out to form a syndicate behind. It is always organized. Let me put it that way, that you do find that people are getting away with corruption because it's a value chain. It starts with someone and ends up with a different person, all of whom would be working together.
I mean, do you think there's almost a situation where more organizations get affected by this, and so more and more people get threatened? What I'm trying to get to is, this comment by Yvonne Mothibi, money's being stolen so quickly it can't be recovered. If, for example, does government set the tone? If government entities have this kind of behavior, suddenly it's more likely to happen in companies? Does it kind of spread? Let me put it like that, maybe?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. This is a kind of perversive behavior that you would get both in private and public sector spaces. So it is perversive, and we see it equally manifesting in different sectors.
What works to try and stop this from happening? What can risk managers do? How should they respond to this kind of threat? It must be very, very scary. And sometimes it comes from someone who, you sit next to in an office.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why, as the Institute would always call for risk managers, and we do believe, Stephen, that any person who's out there to manage any form of risk is a risk manager, and they have a responsibility amongst themselves to firstly and foremost take caution against themselves as persons before they do so as a professional, because we believe that safety of a person and life of a person matters first. So that would be the first thing that I would really urge for our members and risk managers in general to do. But secondly, we need as risk managers to be abreast of developments insofar as capacity building, training, seeking the body of knowledge that is out there to equip yourself as a risk manager to be ahead of your game insofar as what are the learnings that you can take up, best practice, shared experiences that you can gain out of sharing your stories with those who are in the similar industry and some of your peers whom you share the role with.
How important is it for a company to properly support the people in your position, the people who manage risks? And I mean, you know, we've seen cases, unfortunately, where CEOs are the ones causing the chaos. How important is it actually to have proper support for the people who try and manage risk?
It's very important to give perspective, Stephen, is what we're going through as a country right now is a result of having failed to manage risk. And constantly we are seeing an evolving risk challenge that is confronting the country, the likes of the climate change challenges that we are seeing coming from the Western Cape as well as the KZN. So it's quite important that we consider risk management as an effective tool to mitigate the risk of failure as an organization, as a person, as a country, as business, so to speak, because it is in the essence of that you get to identify some of the underpinning risks and root causes that can lead to you as an organization or a person to confront failure or to reduce the extent to which you would potentially succeed.
Yvonne Mothibi, thank you, CEO at the Institute for Risk Management South Africa. Really do appreciate the time.